The Rambam, which you have on the Mar Makomas I sent out, in Hilchas Tvidi Musafim, in Perek Zion, the Rambam says, Mitzvah zu al kol ish mi Yisrael b'chol makom u b'chol zman. The Rambam doesn't differentiate between Sfiras Omer Bizman Hazeh and Sfiras Omer Bizman HaMikdash. And the impression that you get in the Kesef Mishnah points this out is that according to the Shittas of Rambam, Sfiras HaOmer, even Bizman Hazeh, is Doraisa. The Rambam calls it a mitzvah say, he doesn't qualify, he doesn't limit it. And not only the Rambam, but the Mishnah Berurah in Bir Halacha points out that a whole bunch of other Rishonim hold this way. You'll see the Mishnah Berurah in Bir Halacha on your pages. He quotes the Arzarua in the name of the Rav Yah. He quotes the Sefer Chinuch, the Shibbolei Leket, in the name of Rabbeinu Binyamin, Rav Yudai Gaon, Rav Amram Gaon, the Ritzgeis. I mean, there's a whole cadre of Gedolei HaRishonim, even the Gaonim, that hold that Sfiras HaOmer Bizman Hazeh is D'oraisa. The Rishonim who disagree include the Tosfos and the Rosh. Tosfos in Masechta Menachos on Daf Samach Vav speaks about counting Ben Hashmashos, and the reason why we should count Ben Hashmashos, even though Ben Hashmashos is still Sofik Yom Sofik Laila, is because Sfiras HaOmer Bizman Hazeh is only D'Rabbanan. With regard to D'Rabbanan, we could apply the principle of Safek L'Kula. I mean, that itself is problematic. Maybe we'll get back to this later on. Why would Tosfos seem to advocate L'Chatchila that we should count Bein Hashmashos? Even if it's Mitzvah D'Rabbanan, we don't jump into a Safek because it's a Mitzvah D'Rabbanan. The Rosh also agrees with Tosfos that Sfiras HaOmer Bizman Hazeh is D'Rabbanan. And apparently both Tosfos and the Rosh are of the opinion that Sfiras HaOmer depends upon what? But what aspect of the Beis Hamikdash? In other words, when I read the Parsha of the Omer, Sfartem Lachem, Miyom Aviecha B'Somer Atnufa, it means that Sfira depends upon Ktsiras Omer, Avas Omer. We don't have it Bizman Hazeh, and therefore the mitzvah could not be Dorais. The question is, the Rambam.
I understand the Tmimus according to the Tosfos. If it's a Kula D'Rabbanan, so how does he understand Tmimus in the Doraisa Dekadim?
I'm not sure if I understand your question. Let's take this apart. On a Doraisa level, Bizman HaMikdash, the Torah requires Tmimos.
So how would you mean kind of Tmimos in the Doraisa?
I don't know what Tmimos means. You know, the number of possibilities. One possibility would be that Tmimos means count at the beginning of the night. Another possibility of Tmimos means count at night and not during the day. A third possibility would be that Tmimos means count all 49 days and don't skip a single day. So you may have various understandings and interpretations of what Tmimos is, but what's common to all of them is that insofar as Sfiras HaOmer is Doraisa, at the time of the Beis HaMikdash, when they brought the Omer, then we certainly require Tmimos. Perhaps if Bizman Hazeh, Sfiras HaOmer is D'Rabbanan, because we don't have the Omer, we could be a little bit more lenient about Tmimos.
Yeah, well, with Tmimos we like.
But my point tonight, this is what I want to ask you, is doesn't the Torah say that you count from the time of the Omer? And therefore Tosfos and the Rosh argue in a very logical way that if you have the Omer, you can count from the Omer. If you don't have the Omer, you cannot. So how could the Rambam, and now we've established it's not just the Rambam, but it's a whole school of Rishonim, maintain that Sfiras HaOmer Bizman Hazeh is D'Oraisa.
Because it still says Mimachras Shabbos even.
So one way of approaching this Rambam is going to be the Mimachras HaShabbos approach. Meaning that when it says in the Torah, Miyom Aviachem es Omer Atnufa, that's only the Torah's way of guaranteeing that we understand when is the kickoff. In other words, this is what you call a Simona Bialma. This is a pointer that tells me at what calendar date do we kick off the mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer. But it doesn't mean that the mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer is dependent upon the Omer. It begins with the beginning of the bringing of the Omer, but it doesn't depend upon the Omer. The other Rishonim understood, Tosfos and the Rosh, that when it says Miyom Aviachem es Omer Atnufa, it's defining the very nature of the mitzvah. The mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer is dependent upon and fulfilled with the Omer, And Bismana said we don't have the Omer, and therefore Sefira Homer is only the Rabbanan. But the Rambam might have understood it as a Simana Milsa. It's only a Siman L'davar, but really what kicks off the Omer is Mimochras Hashavs. The mitzvah is not dependent upon the Omer. The Brisker Rav quotes Reb Chaim with a different approach. If you'll take a look at the Rambam in Hilchas Beis HaBechira, in the 6th parak, which you'll have on your Mar Makomos page, you will see that the Rambam is of the opinion that Kedushas Migdash is Kidsha L'Shaita V'Kidsha L'Asilov. It means that when Shlomo Melech sanctified the Beis HaMikdash, he did so for all eternity. If you hold Kidsha L'Shaita V'Lo Kidsha L'Asilov, at what point does the Kiddush, the sanctification of the Beis HaMikdash, terminate? Churban. The Kiddush of Mikdash is dependent upon the Mechitzos. When those Mechitzos are gone, the Kiddush is Betela. But the Rambam paskins Kidsha L'Shaita V'Kidsha L'Asilov. Once the binyan was up, once the Mechitzos were constructed, that act of Kiddush penetrates, so to speak, into that place, that makom, and makes it sanctified for all times, even after the Churban. The Rambam goes a step further, and he says, therefore, we can be makriv karbonos even without the bias. So Chaim wanted to suggest the following: not like everybody else understood the Shittas of Rambam, that Sfiras HaOmer does not depend upon the mitzvah of the Omer. It does depend upon the mitzvah of the Omer. No, so then how could Sfiras HaOmer apply Bisman Hazeh?
You have to bring the Omer.
Exactly. It depends on the chiyuv of Havas HaOmer. The fact that we have a Migdash, and the fact that Kidsha L'Shaita V'Kidsha L'Asilov, that means the Makom HaMigdash is the Makom HaKrova, even Bisman Hazeh, after Churban, because the identical sanctity that was initiated by Shlomo at the time of the building of the first Beit still persists today, even though we're not bringing the Omer today, for other reasons. Maybe there are ikuvim, there are blockages, we can't bring it because of Tumah, but the fundamental chiyuv of the Omer applies even Bisman Hazeh, because the Kedusha of Yerushalayim is identical. The other Rishonim who say, no, I need the Omer, means I need a Beis HaMikdash to talk about engendering a chiyuv of Havas HaOmer. We don't have the Beis HaMikdash. Is Kedusha Rishona Kidsha L'Shaita V'Lo Kidsha L'Asilov?
Doesn't mean the chiyuv is turned on because the Kiddush is there. I mean,
once the sanctity is there, you have to bring karbonos.
So
this is the Makom HaKrov. So if the Torah says that on the 16th day of Nisan you have to bring the Omer, then even Bisman Hazeh, despite the fact that you don't see the Beis HaMikdash, it's been destroyed, you still have a chiyuv of bringing the Omer. So Reb Chaim understood in the Rambam that the mitzvah of Sfiras HaOmer is engendered by the chiyuv of Sfiras HaOmer. For example, let me ask you the following question. Just shoot for the hip. Imagine the Beis HaMikdash is standing, and for one reason or another, they didn't bring the Omer. Fisfastim, whatever. Would you say that we still count the days of the Omer? Does the counting of the Omer depend upon whether Lamaisa, in actuality, they brought the Omer? Anybody?
well, if we're counting today, then it's...
No, again, counting today is a knapper proof, because maybe we're counting only Midrash. But what would you say? I mean, the whole period of the Beis HaMikdash, we have a chiyuv of Sfiras HaOmer, and now today we didn't bring the Omer this particular year, so we're going to drop the ball on Sfiras HaOmer.
One would say, if you didn't, just because you were mevatel one asa, doesn't mean you should be mevatel another asa.
No, it'd be a chote miskar, avera gores avera.
But the counter argument is, doesn't the pasuk say Yom Haviachem? You didn't bring it, so.
Miyom Haviachem means that calendar date engenders the chiyuv.
If you say that.
Right.
Because the word is Shabbat. No, what does Shabbat mean? So you need to explain it.
Right, so I'm just pointing out that Reb Chaim's revolution is such that he shifts the entire focus of what this machlokus is all about. All the Rishonim understood that the issue, let me just finish up and then the floor, all the Rishonim, the Achronim, the Poskim, they all understood Pe'echad. It was a unanimous decision. The issue at stake is where the Sfiras HaOmer depends upon Havas HaOmer. Says Reb Chaim Neim, Everybody agrees, Miyom Aviachem. The question is it Miyom Aviachem when the Omer isn't brought? If there's no Chiyuv Omer, there's nothing to talk about. The Omer depends, the Sefira depends upon the Omer. We don't even have a Chiyuv of Sefira's Omer. But if I hold Kinshal Ashaitim and Kinshal Asin Lava, if I hold Makriv and Afal Pishain Bayis, this is the Makam Akrava. Therefore, I have a Chiyuv of Havas Omer. Then okay, Lamaisa, I didn't bring the Omer, I'll still count the Omer. And that's the Rambam L'Shitas. A whole different focal point of the Machlokes between the Rambam and the other Shitas. And I said before, it's not just the Rambam. Yeah.
Well, but if you intend to do something and you can't do it, if you intend to do a mitzvah and you can't do it, don't you still get counted the schar for the mitzvah?
I don't know. That's a different shir. That's not for tonight.
But it's the same thing with the one who does.
Rabbi Jeff, can you speak a drop louder?
Did the Rambam himself say that the fact that the Midrash is kashal level mean that you can bring korbanos?
Yeah, the Rambam writes right there in Perek Vav Milchus Beis Habachira. Please look it up. I think it's Halacha Tesvav. The Rambam Shitas Makrivan Afal Pi Shein Bayis. This raised the entire question, as you know very well historically, about bringing in Korban Pesach Bisman Hazeh because Tumah Hutra Mitzibu.
Shalokadas Harambam.
Those who disagree with them.
Right. Would that, on a sidebar, would that mean that one is allowed to walk up to Even HaShiyah in our day?
If there's no Kedusha, no, there may be different aspects and dimensions to Kedusha. We're talking about the Kedusha that engenders a possibility of bringing Karbanos. As far as other aspects of Kedusha, I'm not sure. For example, David HaMelech, even before Shlomo, sanctified the location, for the purpose of building the Beis HaMikdash. So there's certain Kedusha that reflects the Makom Asher Yivcha Hashem, the Zichron Sidrashu, and there's other aspects of the Kedusha that reflect the Mechitzos. And if the Mechitzos are gone, the Kedusha is Betela, but that's other dinim. Now I want to discuss with you the Aruch HaShulchan. The Aruch HaShulchan comes up with a whole nother take on this sugya. He says, what are we counting? True, we start counting from the Omer. But what is the nature of the counting? Are we counting the days of the Omer as they passed? Or are we counting towards some very unique day that have a great experience in Klal Yisrael, namely what?
Is anybody who says Shavuos is D'Rabbanan?
I hear what you're saying. Now that's an interesting question. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I tell you the truth, if you hold, I'm afraid to say this because I don't want to, we have so much to cover in the next 40 minutes, but if you hold that, I'll just say very quickly, but please don't v'tishka because we don't have time for this, but if you hold that Shavuos is the 50th day of the Omer, and that's what engenders the Kedusha of Shavuos. And if you hold the Sefirus Omer B'zman Hazeh D'Rabbanan, you're in deep trouble because then there's no Shavuos Min Torah today. Okay, but that's again a different thing. So by definition, if I define Shavuos as the 50th day of the Omer, I must assume, like the Rambam V'siyaso, that the counting of the Omer B'zman Hazeh D'Orais. Okay, that's a different.
Unless you're counting up the Shavuos and not away from the Omer.
No, the Aruch HaShulchan points out that what are we counting? We're counting up to Matan Torah. You remember this famous Sefer Chinuch in Shin Vav that the counting is anticipating. We're preparing ourselves for Matan Torah. Now, let's assume, for the time being, that there are two mitzvahs in the Omer. What do I mean by two? You remember we discussed this at great length last week?
Counting the weeks for the Omer, counting the days towards Matan Torah.
Exactly. So let's therefore postulate that counting weeks is D'Rabbanan. And the Gemara says, Ameimar mani yomi v'lo mani shvueh. Ameimar counted days, and he didn't count weeks. Omar, and he declared in explanation, Zeicher l'mikdashu. Meaning that Sefirus Omer is a Zeicher l'mikdash, or at least the way Rabbeinu Yerucham would see it,
the way we enumerate is Agav Orcha.
Right, counting weeks is Zeicher l'mikdash. So here the Brisker Rav asks the following question. If you're counting according to Meimar is Zeicher l'mikdash, then why should there be any difference between the Zeicher and the mitzvah in its original form? A Zeicher l'mikdash means we duplicate exactly what we did at the time of the Mikdash.
At night.
If that be the case, why did Meimar change the nature of the mitzvah? He counted days and not weeks. So the Brisker Rav, based on this question, develops a whole thesis about Zeichel HaMikdash. And he claims that there are two different categories of Zeichel HaMikdash. Sometimes Zeichel HaMikdash means duplicating the mitzvah as it existed. You close your eyes, you imagine the Mikdash is standing. Other times it means some sort of memory device that will bring you into a mental state in which you remember that the Mikdash stood. So again, here's the chakira of the Brisker Rav. What is the nature of Zeichel HaMikdash? Is it to recreate the mitzvah in its original form as it existed at the time of the Mikdash? Or is it simply to create a Zeicher? And then Afkamina is going to be whether or not it should duplicate the original form.
Kairach.
Oh, so before we talk about Kairach, what would you say about Sfiras Omer? From this statement of Amemar. Amemar counted days and not weeks. He dropped the ball on weeks. At the time of the Beis HaMikdash, they counted not only days but also weeks. So the Brisker Rav asks, why not duplicate the original mitzvah? And his answer is because this fits onto a different category of Zeichel HaMikdash. It's not the Zeichel HaMikdash of the Mikdash B'Tifarta, as if it stood, as if it stands now, but rather B'Geder Zeicher, and therefore it's a separate mitzvah.
Why is there stir in the Maisa?
What do you say?
Why is there stir in the Maisa?
I didn't say anything about a steer in the mice. I just say that the mitzvah as we fulfill it today is not a duplicate of the way it was done at the time of the Mikdash. That's a little bit odd. So the Brisker Rav says, why not duplicate it the way they did it at the time of the Mikdash? He says because we're differentiating between that and a different kind of Zeichel HaMikdash.
I think around Azarya, what would be the other, like the other way we mentioned last week? There would be, you have two spheres. You'd
I'm saying I'm a couple that they're two different dimensions, but you can recount both dimensions with the same Maisa.
And yet, Amemar says we're not going to do that. That's the question.
You have to expand that idea a little bit of that the Zecher somehow has to dafka not be Kedech HaMikdash.
Well, maybe the reason for that is because the Mikdash doesn't stand. You know, on the one hand, we want you to remember the Mikdash, but on the other hand, realize that this is not the same identical mitzvah. I was thinking, what about Lekichas Lulav? At the time of the Mikdash, how many days did it take the Lulav? Time of the Mikdash.
It depends. In the Beit HaMikdash it took for 7. But
yeah, that's what I meant to say. In the Beit HaMikdash you took it for 7 days, correct? After the Churban, there would be no need to take the Lulav except Ulakachtem Lachem by Yom HaRishon. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana that we take the Lulav all 7 days, Mishum Zecher, LeMikdash. And here I want to ask the question, is the mitzvah of Lulav, Mishum Zecher, a duplicate of the mitzvah of Lulav that applied at the time of the Mikdash?
It's not.
It's not. How do you know it?
Because it's in Yerushalayim. Only in Beit HaMikdash you'll take 7 days.
No. I'm
on Shabbos we don't take. On Shabbos we
I'm
don't.
asking a different question.
On Shabbos we don't take it.
I'm asking the following question. What I'm saying is, there's something called a Maisa Mitzvah. What I'm asking is, does the Maisa Mitzvah of Netilas Lulav today, based on the Takana of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, duplicate the Maisa Mitzvah of Netilas Lulav as it existed in the Mikdash?
No.
How do you know it doesn't?
The halachas are different.
Exactly.
You don't need shleimus, you don't need...
Correct. That Psulei Hadar did not apply Kol Shiva. Psulei Hadar only apply on the first day. Maybe in Chutz La'aretz for the first 2 days. Mishum Sveika Diyoma, whatever that means. That's a different discussion. But the point is that if Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai meant to give us the full force, the full blast of Zeichel HaMikdash, and duplicate the Maisa of Netilas Lulav as it existed at the time of the Mikdash, then one could argue that he should have duplicated the Daled Minim, and therefore all the Psulim that apply in Mikdash for 7 days should apply Bigvulim Mishum Zeichel HaMikdash. He seems to have created a new type of a mitzvah.
So I think it's even more than that. If the first day falls on a Shabbos, there are kulas that would, if your the first day that you take lulav,
we still don't take lulav because it's Xer Derabba. Yes. So what are you saying?
So those kulas of the other days may apply to the first day that you're actually taking lulav, because the first day you really didn't have a Yom Rishon, because only in the Mikdash.
I don't see why that's relevant to that discussion. If you didn't take lulav on the first day because of Shabbos, that's called Xer Derabba, then you have to forfeit the mitzvah doraisa of lulav.
Correct.
And then you're left with the other days of Zichron Migdash. My only question is, what is the nature of that Zichron Migdash? Is it a duplication of what we had in Migdash, or is it a brand new mitzvah with its own Maisa mitzvah well defined? But Brisker Rav, I think, is trying to map it out and showing us that there's two different categories of Zichron Migdash. He has Sfiras HaOmer as one category of Zichron Migdash, which is not a duplicate of what we did in the Migdash. Perhaps one could say, getting back to Korech that you mentioned, that would also fit into the description of the Brisker Rav. Because what are we missing in Korech?
Korban Pesach.
We're missing the Korban Pesach, so perhaps it's only a Zeichel of Migdash, but it's not. So I was wondering, what about a bracha? Would there be a bracha on Zeichel Migdash? I thought it would fit beautifully into the pattern of the Brisker Rav.
Birchas HaGeula before.
Before we get to Birchas HaGeula, just I'm saying, in general, should there be a bracha on a Zeichel Migdash? I thought it would make sense. We say Yesh Loinzach to Zogen. It's a Zemit Bakesh Lomar. That if it's a Zeichel Migdash in which we duplicate what happened in the Migdash, then we do make a bracha. It's a real bona fide Maisa mitzvah, as if the Migdash stands.
And also they made a bracha, so you want to do the same
But
way.
if on the other hand, we're not duplicating the mitzvah, we're doing a Zeichel in over. It's not really the bona fide Maisa mitzvah with all its dinim and all its pratim, then maybe we should drop the bracha. But then, we're going to have to come to the conclusion that Ameimar did not make a bracha on Sfiras HaOmer. He only counted days and not weeks, and therefore was only a Zeichel of the Alma. It's a new mitzvah. Maybe there was no bracha. That's okay. But what about Lulav Kol Shiva? We make a bracha on Lulav Kol Shiva. So therefore I would think that maybe the fact that the Chefts of the Lulav changes, I don't mean Lulav, when I use the word Lulav I mean the Daled Minim. That for example an Esrog Chaser is kosher for Zeichel Migdash, maybe that's not a real inherent change in the Maisa Mitzvah. Maybe even an Esrog Chaser still has a shame Chefts Shel Mitzvah, and therefore I can implement the Maisa Mitzvah. I don't know. Alternatively, maybe since the Kedushas Hayom of the day is Doraisa, therefore we make a bracha. Because now the Netilas Lulav, even though it's a Zeichel of Migdash, was upgraded to the status of Kedushas Hayom. I don't know. The Brisker Rav goes one step further. Although he doesn't speak about the bracha, he speaks about Shechiyanu. And he wonders why there's no Shechiyanu on Sfiras HaOmer. Do you remember we discussed this at great length last week? Says the Brisker Rav, this we didn't touch upon, that according to certain Rishonim, we drop the bracha of Shechiyanu on Sfiras HaOmer because this mitzvah is a mitzvah she'ein ba simcha, adarab, it's a mitzvah she'esh ba da'ava. What does he mean? So the Brisker Rav says, what these Rishonim mean is that we're not really fulfilling a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. In the classical sense, we're only implementing a Zeichel Migdash. In effect, we're trying to put our mindset, connect our mindset to the Migdash as a sort of fulfillment of, what shall I say, Avelus. Who can give me other examples of Zeichel Migdash that we have that are, in a sense, part of the matrix of Avelus? Can you think of any other examples? I mean, I'm just trying to evoke a response. I'll give you a hint of Chas and Kala, right? And what do they do under the chuppah? They break a glass, correct? Or, for example, when you build a house, you have to leave Daled al Daled without siyud, without completing it. So there are many halachas of Zeichel Migdash which bring us into the whole constellation of Avelus. Shechiyanu mikimanu v'giyanu, because you're remembering the Migdash. That makes no sense. It all fits into the Brisker Rav's pattern that we're not creating a mitzvah d'Rabbanan of Sfiras HaOmer according to this sheet of Ameimar, but rather it's a Zecher Bi'alma, just to remember the Beis Hamikdash.
How do you make a Shechiyanu on Daled Minim at the first day Shabbos?
On the first day?
It's Shabbos.
First day of what? I didn't hear you.
The first day of Sukkot is
Sukkot.
Shabbos.
Right.
So the second day is only, because the first day is only the Deraisa, the rest is Chiyuv for Yerushalayim.
Yeah, but there's no
Right.
Avelus.
So what are you asking? You're asking why we do make shafyan or we don't make shafyan? I don't know what the din is, right? I mean, I didn't...
If the first day of Sukkot is on Shabbos,
right,
and you take Dalet Minim on Sunday, you
yeah.
take shafyan.
So in Chutz La'aretz, I have no problem with that. You're asking in Eretz Yisrael. In Chutz La'aretz, it's midin Sveika Diyoma. So the day is observed as if it was Yontiv Mishum Sveika Diyoma. In Eretz Yisrael, you're asking the question, if we say, that this Zecher LeMigdash is... so that's why I say that it would be more, I think it would be more appropriate to say, that Lefi Ani Yistaiti, that the Zecher LeMigdash of Lulav means Migdash B'Tif Arto. It's not a Zecher in the sense of, we remember the Migdash and we're sad that it's gone. But rather, Rabbanan created a mitzvah as if the Migdash stood.
Doesn't conjure somberness.
And right. And what would strengthen that position? The fact that, wait, give me just 1 minute, because I'm going to lose what I already think I lost it. The fact that what did I want to say? Just 1 second. Oh, okay, it jumped out of my head. That's what happens when but it'll probably come back in at some point. All right. Let's go on to the next point. The Reb Meir Simcha Midvinsk in the Or Sameach says the following. He says that Minyan HaShvuos Hu Min HaTorah Lefi Rabbeinu Yerucham Dafka B'Zman Shebeis HaMikdash Kayom Kirichsiv Me'achel Chermeish Bakoma Shiva Shavuos etc. Aval Minyan HaYom Hu Min HaTorah Tomin Af B'Zman Hazeh V'al Zeh Amru Ameimar Mani Yomi V'lo Mani Shvui Ma'itayma Zecher LeMigdashu Ki Minyan HaShvuos Eino Min HaTorah. Okay, so basically, just to summarize, and we've seen this before, according to Rabbeinu Yerucham, the mitzvah of counting weeks depends upon Migdash, and therefore, B'Zman Hazeh, that we don't have the Migdash, the mitzvah of counting weeks would only come under what? Zecher L'Churban. Yeah. The Rambam, by the way, says in Korech, at the end of Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah, that we don't make a bracha on Korech, B'Zman Hazeh. And the question that arises in my mind, what compelled the Rambam to add this sentence? In other words, L'chora, as a universal principle, we don't make a bracha on Zecher L'Migdash. Why did the Rambam feel compelled to tell me in the case of Korech that we don't make a bracha?
Not even its own mitzvah.
In Zecher L'Migdash.
What would be the Havamina?
So I thought the Havamina might be that you have such a thing as a Zecher L'Migdash, in which Zecher L'Migdash is just the background to the mitzvah, what we call the Yesod mitzvah, the Machayev mitzvah, but the Geder mitzvah is that the Rabbanan created a brand new mitzvah. Because the Rambam wants to exclude the following possibility, that if the halacha is like Hillel, then the mitzvah, D'Oraisa, of Marar is to eat Marar together with matzah. Therefore, one might have argued that B'Zman Hazeh that we don't have the mitzvah D'Oraisa of Al Matzah U'Maram Yochlu. The Rabbanan institute a mitzvah of Al Matzah U'Maram Yochlu to eat matzah with Marar, and therefore it should justify a bracha.
There is a bracha.
And the Rambam wants to say no. It's only Zecher L'Migdash. It's not a mitzvah D'Rabbanan. Right? The mitzvah D'Rabbanan is Marar, as a separate achila, and on that we make a bracha. But the korech of Al Matzah U'Maram Yochlu is only a Zecher L'Migdash, and therefore we drop the bracha. But again, if that be the case, then we have to assume that in the case of Lulav, it's a duplication of the original. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. You see, I knew if I would. The Gemara explains what was the source for Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Where did he base himself on? This is the Gemara in Sukkah and Beis. The Gemara says that the pasuk says Yishayahu Hanavi says Tzion Doresh Ein Lo Michlal Deboy Drisha. Now, what does it mean to be Doresh Tzion? Interesting. Elsewhere, when the Gemara speaks about remembering the Mikdash, it quotes a different pasuk. Im eshkachech Yushalayim tishkach yivini. Here the Gemara quotes the pasuk Doresh Ein Lo. So I heard once from the Rav that there are two mitzvahs of remembering the Mikdash. One is to remember the Mikdash b'churbano, and the other is to remember the Mikdash b'tifarto. When we remember the Mikdash b'churbano, we trace that back to Emeshkachech Yerushalayim Tishkach Yemini. But when we're remembering the Mikdash b'tifarto, then it's Tzion Boi Drisha. We have to be Doresh Tzion. The mitzvah of Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai of Lulav Kol Shiva Zeichel Mikdash means Zeichel Mikdash b'tifarto. And the proof is because the Gemara derives it from the pasuk Tzion Doresh Ein La, and the Gemara darshins Michlal Tavoy Drisha, not from Emeshkachech Yerushalayim Tishkach Yemini. Therefore, one could argue that Zeichel Mikdash fits into two categories. When Zeichel Mikdash is to remember never that we don't have a Mikdash, Chaser Lanu, then we drop Shechiyanu, maybe even we drop the Bracha, maybe the Ma'aseh Mitzvah, as the Brisker Rav says, doesn't have to be identical and reflect the original Ma'aseh Mitzvah, it's only a Zeicher. But when it's Doresh Eila, Michlal Deboy Drisha, and we have to recreate the Mikdash B'tifarto, then the Ma'aseh Mitzvah should be identical to the mitzvah as it was performed at the time of the Mikdash, and we should make the brachos that are appropriate. All right. Please give me another few minutes. I just want to ask one question. You mentioned Chutz La'aretz. So I was thinking, if there's a Sveika Diyoma, and we don't know which day is Yontiv, then how many days of Sfiras Omer should we have? What I mean to say is, let me explain myself a little better. When I come to the counting of the Omer, I don't really know for sure that this is the first day of the Omer or it's the second day of the Omer, and that creates a domino reaction. So shouldn't we be counting two different counts every night? Mishum Sveika Diyoma. Oh, beautiful. Do you know who says that Vart? How many of you heard of the Dvar Avram? The Dvar Avram was the Rav in Kovna before the war, and he died in the Kovna ghetto. The Nazis didn't kill him, but directly, indirectly they killed him. He died of a broken heart, but he was a very brilliant.
What was his last name?
What did he say?
What was the last name?
His name was Sender Shapiro. Was his last name? He had two names, and my Rebbe was very fond of him, and he fond of my Rebbe. He wrote a tremendous letter about my Rebbe. I don't want to get into it now. So he asks the following question: what about Sveika Diyoma with regard to Sfiras Omer? So the Dvar Avram, he says the following: Geder HaSfira, the definition of Sfira, Hu HaYidiyah VaBirur Shekachu HaMinyan. He says that the essence of Sfiras Omer is the absolute certainty that this is the number of this day. Otherwise, it's not a minyan. Ein ha'inyan lahotzi milos ha'mispar b'piv. The mitzvah is not just to recite words. So if I recite that tonight is the 21st day and the 22nd day, so Mimanav Shachar was Yotzei, but rather, it's not Amira, but it's Sfira. And Sfira requires an absolute certainty. And he ties this in with the Magen Avram, who says that if you don't understand Lashon Kodesh, and you counted in Hebrew in Lashon Kodesh, you weren't Yotzei, because you don't understand what you're counting. That's not called an act of Sfira. He combines it with the question. Just one second. Tosas in Sota says that Hallel, Kiddush, and all brachos can be recited in any lashon, but the Magen Avram says not Sfiras Omer, because in Kol HaTorah Kulor we need Amira. Here we need what? Sfira, and Sfira has to be definite. So let's say I don't remember what tonight is. Is tonight 21 or 22? Right? It's neither of those. But I didn't done my yet. So can I say, well, maybe tonight is 21, maybe tonight is 22? No, you're not Yotzei. In fact, we'll see later on, if we have time, that even at the time of the bracha, you should know for sure what number it is, because the bracha is also part of the Sfira. So,
how does that? How does that resolve the problem?
How does what resolve what problem?
The requirement for certainty in Sefira doesn't resolve the Sveika Diyoma.
No, but he's saying that when the Takana could have a Sveika Diyoma, if you could use Sveika Diyoma and at the same time maintain the mitzvah, if you could observe 2 days of Yontif, so fine, you observe 2 days of Yontif. But in a situation where the mitzvah does not allow a possibility of Safek, then we have to be definite about what the day is. Now you could ask me, what did they do Bisman Kiddush al Piriyah? Okay, that I don't know according to Dvar From. I'm sure he addresses that question.
You mean in Bavel?
Yeah, let's say I was in Bavel at the time of Kiddush al Piriyah, and I didn't get the word until the 15th of the month, then I didn't know what day of the Sefira it was. Okay, the 15th of the month would not be relevant, but let's say the Shluchim didn't get to that part of the world even after the 16th of the month.
Well, you actually have 2 months in the middle, that's Kaveh.
I just want to point out, this sefer that I'm using, called the Erchei Hashas from Rav Biton, has a fascinating footnote here. He says that according to the Dvar Avram, that the concept of Sefira requires certainty. You can begin to understand a Gemara in Bava Metzia Davavam in Beis, which Shishita Mekubetzis leaves as a baffled Gemara. He's baffled. The Gemara says that in the counting of Meiser Behema, they put all the animals into the deer, and then one went out after the other, until they got to the 10th, they said Asirei Kodesh. So the Gemara says in Bava Metzia Davav that if there's a lack of certainty, like Kafatzecha bin Amenuyim, so then all the animals are potur from Meiser Behema. Why? Because the Torah, there's a special drasha, Vadai, Meiser Vadai, Velo Meiser Sofek. So the Shita Mekubesis asks, but we have a halacha of Achrei Rabim Lahatos. Rov should therefore tell me that this animal is the 10th. Do you follow? So the Dvar From says, yeah, Rov works in general, but the exception to the rule is when the halach is Sefira. If you have to count 1, 2, 3 until you get to the 10th, it requires certainty. And even though the Torah says rely on Rov, it still doesn't make it into what? Into Vada. Rabbi Kivega wants to know if you could be Yotzei in the midst of Sefira someone by writing the day. Again, in Hilchas Hamira, let's say, for example, if I would write a bracha down on a piece of paper, and I'd cover on the lotzes, I would write Havdalah, Kiddush, I don't know what. I would not be Yotzei. It's Ksiva Lav Kedibur Dam. So why does Rabbi Kivega think that Ksiva, if I write the day to Yomer, is I'm Yotzei? What's the svara?
It doesn't say you have to say it.
Correct. It's not halach of Amira, as we said over and over again. It's halach of Sefira. Sefira, if this is the way you count something, for example, in Gittin, when you write a get, so you write the date of the get, so you write it. It's not a question of enunciating it. When is halach of Amira, of Dibur, then Sefira Lav, then Ksiva Lav Kedibur Dam? But when there's halach of Sefira, so you have to define for yourself what's considered a Tzura Sefira, then Achinami Rabbi Kivega is of the opinion that even writing is considered Sefira Somer. And now I want to get to the main topic for tonight. Are women obligated in the mitzvah of Sefira Somer? So what's your knee-jerk response? So mitzvah say, Shazman. Lo and behold, the Ramban in his Chidushim on Kiddushim, on Daf Lamed Dal, when he raises the point of Tana Vashir, which means that the Mishnah does not enumerate all the mitzvahs that are Zman Grom, or all the mitzvahs that are Lav Zman Grom, the Mishnah just gives you examples. So the Ramban enumerates list after list of what's Zman Grom and what's Lo Zman Grom. Where does the Ramban classify Sfiras Omer? You guessed it. Lav Zman Grom. And this has baffled the minds of the Gdolei Arishonim, the Gdolei Achronim, up until this day. The most fascinating answer, Lefi Ani Daiti, to explain the Ramban, is that of the Turiev and the Shagasari. The Shagasari wants to know, why are women, the Mishnah says that women are obligated in the mitzvah of Mikra Bikurim, of Havas Bikurim. Yet, you can only bring Bikurim during a very special, limited time of the year. And that is at the time when the fields are full with crops. And that, the Gemara says, goes up until Chanukah. After Chanukah, when the winter is very strong, you won't find Mitzuyim Basada, and therefore, if there's no Paris Mitzuyim Basada, it's Lavzman Bikur. So the Torah asks a kasha, so how could women be chayv in Havos Bikurim? There are many answers to this question, but the Torah gives a very unique answer. He says the following.
There's no
what?
There's no
If it lasts more than a month, then it's...
No, he says the following. That the Zman doesn't engender the mitzvah of Bikurim. The mitzvah of Bikurim depends upon another factor, another variable. It happens to be that variable within the calendar year is limited, is circumscribed. But the mitzvah per se, inherent in the mitzvah of Bikurim, I can bring Bikur the whole year round. There's nothing about that time period that engenders the mitzvah of Havas Bikurim.
Can you bring Bikurim at night?
Night is a different question, because the Midrash is closed for business at night. So, again, this is already a little different discussion about whether women are obligated in the midst of Binyan HaMikdash when there's no Binyan HaMikdash at night. So that's a different Torah about the mitzvah of Streifas Nosar. So the Torah claims that women are obligated in Streifas Nosar despite the fact that we don't burn Nosar at night, only by day.
It's an external issue.
He says that that's just a temporary interruption in the mitzvah. The mitzvah is really chal both by day and night. But let's just get back to this one. So, according to the Torah, if you can compare and contrast two different mitzvahs, mitzvah A is engendered by the Zman. It would be ludicrous to fulfill that mitzvah at a different time period. Mitzvah B, in and of itself, is applicable, is meaningful, any time of the year. But there's another variable, some sort of external condition that limits the time period in the mitzvah. Says the Torah, in the first case, when the mitzvah is ludicrous, it's inapplicable, in another period of time, the time period itself engenders the mitzvah, that's called the Zman Grom. But in the second mitzvah, where the mitzvah depends upon something external to the mitzvah, and without that external condition, the mitzvah cannot be implemented, and that external condition impacts upon the mitzvah by limiting it in time, since the mitzvah inherently could be fulfilled at any time, therefore it's mitzvah say, Shein Azman Groma, says the Torah.
Depends on the Omer.
But you can count days the whole year round. It could be a religious experience. Count days the whole year round. The only problem is that you're bound by two karbanos. If you remember our discussion of last week, the karban omer on the one side and the karban shtei alechem on the other side. Those are mitzvah seishas mind groma. The omer is engendered by the second day of Pesach, and shtei alechem is engendered by Chag HaShavuos. But theoretically, Sefira could take place any time of the year. Just that Sefira is dependent upon something external to it. So we count from one date to another date, because one date represents the Omer, and the other date represents the Shtei Alechem, but that's not inherent in the mitzvah itself. And that's why the Ramban classifies Sfiras Omer as a mitzvah say, Shein Azman Grom.
I'm not really understanding Chiluk. Shofar also, in theory, I can hear Shofar 600.
But Shofar is engendered by the Kedushas Hayom. If the Kedushas Hayom engenders the mitzvah is inextricably woven, integrated into the fabric of the Kedushas Hayom. But in the case of Sfiras Omer, there's no Kedushas Hayom.
But what sits this?
If I count tonight as the 22nd day of the Omer, there's nothing inherent in this day that makes it the 22nd day of the Omer.
Why is Kedushas Hayom external? Like, what makes Kedushas Hayom internal and anything else external?
Because Kedushas Hayom engenders the mitzvah. That makes it Zman Grama. But in the case of the Omer, the 22nd day of the Omer doesn't engender the mitzvah. The 22nd day of the Omer, right? Let's say tonight is Zion ER, is that correct? Did I get that right?
Last night was on.
Yes.
Last night was Zion? No. Wait a minute.
Last week. Yeah,
last night was Zion. Right. So tonight is going to be the 8th of ER. So let's go back to Zion Ear. So I don't want to get in trouble with counting the Omer yet. But let's say it was Zion Ear. So on Zion Ear, I'm going to count the 22nd day of the Omer. Correct? Is the Zion Ear generates that counting of the 22nd day of the Omer? No. Is there any relationship between that particular time period and the Omer? The Omer can be counted at any time period. Ella what? The Torah says that count the Omer when the Omer is brought. No, if the Omer was brought at a different time of the year, I would count the Omer at a different time of the year.
The Torah says blow the shofar when it's Rosh Hashanah. Like, why
because so that's exactly what his Zman Groma is. That the Rosh Hashanah is going the mitzvah.
Yeah.
What about
you understand this? It's mamish like Bikurim. Just like Bikurim depends upon an external condition. That you have to have Peiros Mitzvah B'Sadeh, so to the Sefira, which inherently can apply the whole year, but it depends upon other mitzvahs. Now, those other conditions, like the Omer and the Shtei Lechem, those are dependent on time. Those are engendered by time.
What about Bikurim gives you, Bikurim is your first fruits, and you have a window to bring it, and it's not tied to any particular day within that window. So it's hard to call it as much.
No, wait a minute, but does the window have a beginning and an end?
Yeah, but you're
so
not.
Then it's Zman Groma. It should be Zman Groma.
You can't say that that has a dimion to Sfiras Hayom. Sfiras Hayom is 49 specific days that occur on 49 specific days on the calendar that are delineated on 49 specific days, and they're treated as one unit. So much so that if you miss a bracha on one day, you can't count the rest.
But are those days that you say delineate the mitzvah? Is that a result of something inherent in Sfira?
No, it's not. It's not this.
Count 49 days. Count 49 days any time of the year. Ella what? There's another condition you can only count. I'll give you another example. You heard of the Chachma Shlomo. The Chachma Shlomo, the Marshal, wants to know whether women are obligated in the midst of Kiddush Levana. So V'im Tomar, it's a classical what? Zman Groma, you can only be Mekayim during the first half of the month, not the second. Right. He says, no, that's only a condition in the Levana.
It's not
the mitzvah of Kiddush could apply any day of the year. You make the bracha on the Levana, but what? You have to be able to see a waxing Levana, not a waning Levana. He says that's an external condition. It's not inherent.
That question came up with Birkas Achama, the same question. And
same idea. Yeah. All right, we have to end for Meir soon, but I just want to throw in one last discussion. And that is, whether women are chayiv or not? No, we don't pass like this Ramban. I didn't mean to say we. This was just long.
There's another issue with when we're making the bracha on the Omer, because it's also Zman Groma. You only do it at night.
You want to know whether women should make the bracha on the Omer?
No, I'm saying it's also Zman Groma because of it's not only it's a specific group of days, but it's also only at nighttime.
You see, I'll tell you, Eli. Maybe I would say the following. I don't know if this is what you're saying. You remember Rabbeinu Yerucham last week that the two mitzvahs, the Shavuos and Yom. I would tell you the following: that with regard to Shavuos as an independent mitzvah, I could possibly entertain the svara of the Shagasari. But with regard to Yom, I would suggest that women, even according to the Ramban, would be exempt from the mitzvah of counting Yom. And I'll tell you why. I can accept the Shagasarye that insofar as Shavuos is sandwiched between the kickoff of Omer and the goal of Shtei Lechem, so there's an external variable that makes it conditional and circumscribes the time period. But the mitzvah counting days means that you have to impact upon the day. You have to change the day and make it into a Yom Safur. That's a relationship to time. The Zman Groma could work in both directions. Either the time period engenders the mitzvah, or the mitzvah impacts on the time period. In the case of Shavuos, I'm marking the weeks from Pesach to Shavuos. In the case of mitzvahs Yomim, Tisfru Chamishim Yom, every day independently is a mitzvah to decide, to determine the nature of that day, to designate that day, to count that day and convert it into that particular sphera.
You just made a hit.
That I would say is the Zman Groma, even according to the Torah.